Hello, my name is David Kelly, and I'm going to talk to you today about I am big, you are little, I am right and you are wrong, accepted to ICCV 2025. We started from the following question. We thought to ourselves there are many different types of model, many different subtypes. They all have incredible performance. For the most part, they're all very quick. So how else can we decide on which model to use for a given task? And we thought to ourselves, well, perhaps explainability is one way to go about distinguishing between different models. So we used the causal explainability tool Rex to generate minimal pixel sets for a variety of different architectures. A minimal pixel set is a subset of the pixels of the image which by themselves have the same classification as the original image. So you can see here we started with an image of a peacock. We then use what is called causal responsibility, which is a quantification of causality to create a saliency landscape. And from this saliency landscape, we discover pixel sets, which we call MPSs. So in image C, you can see that it only needs a tiny bit of the peacock's tail for the rest of the image to be considered peacock. And there doesn't need to be only one explanation. There can be multiple explanations as well, which you can see in image D. To illustrate this, I have an example here of a seashell. And so we wanted to know, did different models need different amounts of information to make the classification, and the locations of that information, was it different, was it the same? So if we look at the different images from B to E, we can see that different models do indeed look at entirely different locations. And in fact, if we look in particular at C, the model needed very, very little information indeed, only in the region of 100 pixels to make a strongly confident classification of seashell. We can see something similar in E, a very small MPS or causal explanation, which had a very high confidence. In our experiment, we took 15 different models, representatives of 5 broad categories of model with 3 models within each category. On the y-axis, you can see the percentage of the total area which is occupied by the MPS or causal explanation. Smaller obviously indicates very small explanations. We can see here that the inception models in general have much larger explanations, and the convnext and the EVA in general have the smallest. In fact, there are statistically significant differences in MPS size both across and inside the different architectures. We used a Kruskal-Wallis H-test, which is a non-parametric statistical test, to indicate that the probability of the null hypothesis being correct was less than 0.01. We've seen that the different models consider different amounts of information when making their classifications. But do they also look in the same place? So are they looking at the same information but just considering more or less of it? The answer is no, they're not. So we took the DC and the Hausdorff scores for our top models and discovered that they don't all look in the same location. In fact, locations are distributed all over the image depending on the model. The example I have here is quite interesting because the image itself shows a grey fox, which a human can tell by looking at the bushy tail with the white tip. The models themselves, however, all consider this hyena. And we can see in this example that the models are looking at different regions of the animal. So some are looking at the rump, some are looking at the shoulders, and some are looking at the spine. And yet they all give the same, in this case, wrong classification of hyena. We've seen that MPSs are of different sizes across different architectures and subclasses. We've seen that MPSs are also distributed over the image, and on the same image, a different model will have a different MPS in a different location. But it also turns out that correct and incorrect classifications have an effect on the size of the MPS. So we found that there is a statistically significant difference between MPS sizes for correct and incorrect classifications, with incorrect classifications being slightly larger on average, though we have to say that it is only about 2.6% larger, so it's not very much. So, if you find yourself in a situation where you have many choices of model, all with similar performance metrics, and you don't really know how to decide between them, then using RICS to analyze their MPS characteristics is the way to go. You will learn more about your model. You should be able to choose a smaller model, ideally. And if you want more information, please check out the QR code that'll take you to the GitHub repo, the documentation, and other papers which utilize RICS. Thank you very much for listening.